And we are live, ladies
Yo,
and
yo.
gentlemen. Man, we are live. It's 9 a.m. in your time, I'm assuming. It's
It
12
is,
a.m.
man. It is.
in my time. Welcome to the Nothing But Nuggets podcast. I got a very special guest today with me, Max Jimenez. Jimenez or Jimenez. How you say it? I messed
Jimenez.
up.
Just act
Jimenez.
like the
Okay.
J, just like the J's and H, man. Or you can just pronounce it like everybody else does, gymnast.
Yeah, I got Max Jimenez on the show. He's an awesome closer. Uh, he's crushing out Phoenix, him and his partner Steve Train.
Yes,
And I
sir.
definitely wanted to get him on the show to talk about some closing techniques because a lot of people they're currently struggling. We figure out how to get the leads and how to pull the leads and what to skip trades, and then we struggle with closing a seller. So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome Max to the show. Go ahead, introduce yourself, Max, and let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, awesome, man. I appreciate it, Antoine. I love that, that I get to be a part of this podcast. I've been watching some of your episodes. You brought on some great guests, and I really appreciate it by my heart, man, for having me on. Nowadays it's really hard to get people on that are, for the most part, trustworthy or things like that. But I do appreciate it, man. Thank you. My name is Max Jimenez. I'm out here in Phoenix, Arizona, right? The least competitive market in the states, I think. I'm actually so it's me and my business partner Steve Trang, which most of we're part owner and partner on Max Cash Offers, which is our wholesale business, and then also partner and owner of Real Estate Disruptors. We've been partnered for about 2 years, actually, last month. So Steve and I.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Been wholesaling now for about 5 years. I started in 2015. I didn't really get going till about the end of 2016. Been doing this for a little bit, now. But yeah, mostly we're big on sales, right, and closing. And you're right. I think you made a very good point in the beginning about getting the leads, getting to generate leads, skip tracing, all that stuff. The hard part is closing those leads down. I think that is the hard part. And so Steve and I, we work on our craft quite a bit, so we're huge on sales. That's kind of where we're at. We don't teach wholesaling. We talk about it, but that's not our main bread and butter. You can
Right.
go on YouTube. You can go on YouTube and find all that if you want to learn about wholesaling. But we're mostly focused on the sales side and the closing side.
Right, awesome. Because most people don't notice when they become real estate wholesalers or investors that it's more to just finding a seller. Right,
Yeah,
it's a science behind closing a person. Even if they
correct,
motivated or not, you still have to go through the closing process to closing.
correct.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
so, so let's talk about that a little bit. That's something that caught my attention. Right, there's so many sales guys out here right now. What
Yeah,
made
yeah.
you and Steve go with the Sandler type of sales system to work your sales process than any other system that's offered to the marketplace?
Yeah, man, that's an awesome question, actually. So it was interesting the way we got into this. So a friend of ours was already attending Sandler, and so Steve went first. What was crazy about it is that Steve started going first, and the guy that was running, the coach, the sales coach that was running the sales training, kind of reversed Steve, which is the main. It's that reversing, and I'll get into that a little bit. But he kind of reversed Steve because Steve was excited. Hey, I want to join this program. My friend's in here. I see what he's doing. And what was crazy, man, is that the trainer, the sales coach, was actually pushing Steve away. So he's like, well, if you want to join your friends, why don't you just stand at the door and wait till they come out and you can talk to them. So he was doing all these yeah, crazy, man. Where the traditional sales, it's like, how do I close this guy, right? We call it
Right,
commission bread, right? How do we close this person? So for the most part, that was one of the key factors that attracted to us. It was a very different style. It was more of I don't know if you're too familiar with judo. So judo is kind of like the foundation. The judo style is the foundation of Sandler. So you use the other person's energy, you use the other person's feedback for you to be able to close them, and that's what kind of attracted us to Sandler. It was a total opposite 180 of the traditional, right? Kind of like what you hear, always be closing. Hey, we know it's expensive. Here, just press hard. Third copy's yours. You hear all that, right? All the, what is it? All the hard closes,
Right.
all the traditional stuff. And this thing, the Sandler system went the opposite way, where it was like you push people away, you use reverse techniques, and you allow the seller, and here I go, sellers, but you allow your prospect to close themselves in a nutshell, and that's kind of the attraction, man. We looked at and Steve's done a lot of self-development. I mean, he's spent hundreds and thousands of dollars, and I've done a lot of sales training as well too, right? And this thing just, I'll tell you what, we love this so much. Me and him became lifetime members, which wasn't really cheap. Well, it wasn't cheap, but that's why we loved it so much. We came to that. But that's kind of what attracted us to Sandler, man. It was just a different approach. It wasn't the same, hardcore closer styles, nothing like that. It was really crazy judo, man. You know how judo, you use
Yeah.
the other person's force to get them down, and lock them up. Yep. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about the way your business is formatted right now. Like, as far as your wholesaler operation, what
Yep.
does that currently look like in the different components? Like, who does what?
Sure. So obviously there's four of us in house. That includes Steve, myself, and then Steve sort of. So we run traction. So Steve is sort of the visionary, and then I come in as the integrator slash visionary. So because I do some things with, if it's good for the business, I'll implement them. So
Right.
not necessarily is Steve is waiting for Steve to give the answer. So, and then we have Kristen, who is our full integrator. She's just, we reach out to her, like, all she needs to know is do A, B, C, and D, and she runs with it. She's the full integrator. And then we had 3 acquisition guys in the beginning of the year. 2 went on their own, and then we just had 1 quit. So I'm actually in the middle of the process of bringing on 2 more. And then Ruben's been with us for a year and a half. That's the 4th person. He's helping right now with acquisitions and disposition. So that's our in-house people. Outside of that, we have 6 VAs. So we had we had a total of 9 or 8. Sorry, I let go of 2 2 weeks ago. But we have a total of 6 VAs, and that the way those VAs break down is 3 of them are cold callers. So 3 of them are cold callers. 2 of them are data personnel. So all their job is to pull data. And then my favorite VA is who runs. She's our leads manager. She puts everybody in place. She runs our text platform.
Right.
She runs our Podio. She's a beast, man. She's out of the Philippines. So 3 of them out of the Philippines, 3 of them out of Mexico. And that's our operation right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's our operation right now.
And do you care to elaborate why you kind of like got rid of the 2 VAs? Like, what was the issue?
Yeah. So I'm very hands-on. I think you can probably attest to this because I know you're huge on this and you care about VAs. You see them as people just like I do.
Right.
Most people see them like, it's just another worker. And I'm very hands-on. I train them. So I role play with them twice a week. We got a chat group where, we make sure we check on them and stuff. So the reason why we did this, I gave them a chance. Think they were on board for about, I want to say 2 months. They just weren't getting it. You know what I mean? They just weren't getting it, even with the training that I was providing and stuff. And that's kind of what happened. It wasn't that, I trained them, role played, showed them how to talk to sellers, and like I said, the role plays were there, send them recorded, but they just weren't getting it. That's kind of why, we had to let them go. So, yep.
Right. And far as I know you said your lead manager helps facilitate the SMS. What current platform do you find is most effectively doing SMS?
Man, if you would ask me this question about 4 months ago, I would have had like one specific platform. I think text has gotten really hard. So we currently use Batch, and that's been working for us, right? We use Batch SMS. But texting's gotten really difficult, man. I think if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of the platforms right now are struggling because the carriers are coming down really hard. So, whatever platform you use, it's now up to you as far as how successful that platform is. And what I mean by that is that you need to adjust. You need to be changing your phone numbers. You need to be,
There you go.
Yeah. You need to be changing your phone numbers. You got to be changing your messages. You can't blast the same message to 5,000 people anymore. That doesn't work anymore.
Right.
But for us, we've been using Batch SMS and it's been working so far. They had to go through some transitions because again, they're at the mercy of the carriers. All
Right.
platforms are at the mercy of the carriers. So, yeah.
Right. And that's why even for me, I use the smaller contact, right? And
Right.
not to compare them, they both companies, right? That's like
Yeah.
us
Yeah. Yeah.
comparing Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
reason why
Right.
I like that work with them is because I actually know the owner. I'm able to have a conversation with him, and
Got you.
he was speaking to me about just 6 months ago how you have to have multiple couriers already pre-built into your system. So if one courier
Right.
start acting up, you click a
Yep.
button and boom, no one's really gets interrupted. But like you
Yeah.
said, I think that uh, you can't send out bulk text messages in a way like you used to do. I think that's why now we got two SMS people full part time, and
Right.
their sole job is to send out individual text messages.
Got you.
So that way our numbers won't get flagged or our delivery rate can stay higher. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's the goal, man. That's the goal for
yeah,
sure.
so you are currently in Phoenix, or is there any other surrounding areas that you like to focus on?
Yeah, so we focus on which is Maricopa County, that we go
Okay,
heavy, which it covers. It's kind of like so Phoenix is the biggest. It's the biggest. Then you have suburbs like you got Scottsdale, you got Mesa, Chandler, you got other, and everything's really within the vicinity, right? Like if you won't know that you left Phoenix and you're in another city already. So let's
right.
just put it that way. Um, Farther down south, we have what's called Tucson. So we started marketing there last year. So we get deals. We started doing deals there in Tucson as well too, and those are virtually. So those deals. So look, that's the only markets that we're in right now is those two.
Yeah, so let's go back to the difference, the pros and cons of what do you feel like virtual appointments versus in-person appointments, and what type of strategies do you use versus virtually and in-person if I was closing a seller?
Yeah. So, I think with this market, so again, going back, right, because things have changed so much, right? And, we had, with everything that's going on, if you would ask me this question a year ago, I would have said appointment all day because going to the appointment physically, because I can tell you that if I go to the appointment, my spread's going to be average 20K no matter what. and
Right,
I'm pretty confident in that, right? And because if being in front of the seller is a lot different than being on the phone, right? Because now
right.
you're looking at expressions, body language, and then you can adjust and maneuver whatever it is. So we were averaging our average spread when we were going out to appointment was about 17.5, right? That was our average out of all the deals that we're getting. But things started to change, and then with this going on, we pivoted, and so we started doing virtually. So our spreads dropped a little bit, even though we were still using the same closing techniques and stuff. But you know what, man? Honestly, now we keep an open mind, right? We try to, we can close it virtually. We're going for the close virtually. We're not even going to ask for the appointment. If they don't want to do anything with the phone, then we'll go to the appointment. But I don't think there's no right or wrong answer. I think it just depends on how your business is structured, right? If you're not marketing in your market and you're outside, then you're gonna have to pivot, go virtually. Virtual is not sexy though, man. Let's be honest,
Oh
right?
no, it's not.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of structure, and the way I look at it is like you got to take everything that you're doing in your local market, take that out and then go dump it into another market, right? And you got to start building relationships, realtors, or title companies. But honestly, for us, we don't mind. We prefer both. We'll do both. We'll do virtually, or we'll do appointments. We lean a little bit towards the appointment because we know if we go, we're gonna get a bigger spread. If we go to the appointment, but if we can lock it up over the phone, we're definitely gonna get it over the phone. So, and I think, like I said, it always comes back because not one business is the same, right?
Right.
I know guys who are doing 100% virtual and they're crushing it, right? So I think you just have to figure out what your business structure looks like and what you want your business to look like. That way you can decide.
So, speaking of the level 10, right? Because I'm a kind of attraction guy myself. What
Yeah,
are
yeah.
some KPIs that are very important to you that you must have on your desk every single Monday?
Yeah, definitely. So for our VAs, it's there's top three, which is dials, contacts, and conversations. So we don't track offers. So our main goal is conversations, which means because conversations tells us that they're actually contacting people, they're speaking with people who are interested in selling. And then from there is the leads that come in. So from there is the leads that they generate out of that conversation. Those are the things that those are on top of our list, and then it trickles down from there. But those are our top three KPIs that we look at and must track for our business. Yep.
Right. And far as dispositions, like do you see any things changing with your disposition? Like I know for me, like I had a few buyers I can easily text and things get
Yeah.
sold. Like, but them buyers relied on a different type of money that isn't currently in the marketplace. Do you see any adjustments with the way you sell your deals?
Yeah, man. I think we all did, right? I think for the most part, man. Freaking, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm probably gonna get some hate. Freaking buyers got greedy, bro.
Uh huh.
You know, they got it was so quick. Like, so we saw that from day one. You know, when this thing started to hit, like, you know, we reached out. So I'll give you an example. We reached out to some buyers that were buying at 75%. All of a sudden, they're like, "No, we need to be at 60 minus repair." And I'm like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
60 minus repair. Like, I get it, right? You have to adjust. And, you know, we saw some buyers actually stop buying for the most part. So here's what we did. And I know that some of your listeners might not be in the position. You're probably in this position. So what we did is that when our buyers started telling us that, we shifted a little bit. And what we did is we started taking some of our own product down. And so, because if you're buying at 60% minus repair, I mean, might as well keep it. And what we did
Right.
is we went the hotel route for the middle of March to April. And so, but we did see some adjustments. You know, buyers, you know, either stop buying completely, or they changed their criteria where it was like you're thinking to yourself, like, what the heck's going on? And the reason why I say they got greedy, and this is just me saying that, right? Because the sellers that you're speaking with have not caught up to that adjustment yet. Because the retail side is still for our market, anyways, right? For Phoenix, the retail side, anything under 250,000 and below, is still moving. It's going under
Right.
contract in 5 days. So you're thinking like, okay, so I'm trying to negotiate with the seller so I can give my buyer a good deal. My buyer wants to be at 60 minus repair, like, and the seller's like, wait a minute, I'm looking at the sellers just look at the market. They're not, your everyday person. They're not looking at an investor side
Right.
of the business. Yeah, they're just looking like, I'm not seeing prices dropping. The news is not saying, hey, your house is now worth 20,000 less than what it was before. So the adjustment for us was we looked at our buyers and we're like, you know what, you're freaking out of your mind. So we adjusted and shifted and took a couple of those properties down ourselves and listed them on the market.
And yeah, the wholesaler, man, in certain markets, it almost makes sense to just take them down. Don't even deal with the buyers, because at that point, like, you can make the sellers happy. Because some sellers feel like you said, there's no point in taking a price reduction that
Yeah,
significant if the market shows me otherwise. So
correct.
take them
Correct.
down. And sometimes, like, I personally haven't done a hotel deal yet, but that's something I'm
Mm.
interested in moving forward. But sometimes the people I do know that's doing them, they make double what they would have got on an assignment. So the risk a
Yeah,
little
no,
higher, but
yeah, the
you
risk,
know,
definitely, man. And like I said, it's not a strategy that everybody can do in the beginning, as far as, when you're getting started. But once you're in a position, you have to think about that. And so that way, when this happens and your buyers are getting your buyers are shifting and they're dropping their criteria like crazy, it just makes sense to go that route. But we had to adjust, definitely had to adjust. And it was tough, man. Like, we were having great conversations. We were still trying to negotiate so we can get some deals for our buyers. But it was tough, man. And that's why we were like, okay, well, let's just shift for this little small window, see what happens. And we filled up our pipeline. That's what we did during April and March with our seller pipelines, until some of our buyers, we're starting to see now, some of our buyers are loosening up a little bit and starting to spend again. So
yeah, I'm
that's the
starting to
side.
see that too on my end. Like, buyers starting to buy, hard money lenders starting to recoup some of
Yep.
the money that was
Right,
put on
right,
hold for them.
right,
So
right.
what do you see yourself in the next 12 months from now with everything you got going on? What are some things you hope to accomplish?
That's a good question, man. One of the things I want to do is, for me, I want to start to build my passive income side. personally.
Right.
Yeah, that's I want to get to where a place where, I don't want to be hustling forever, right? That's not the
Me
goal
neither,
here, right?
brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hustling forever, grinding forever. So that's good. That was actually something that I was planning on this year, and then obviously things changed a little bit. But that's really my outlook for the next 12 months is build my portfolio of, generating the passive income that's required to actually live the lifestyle that you desire. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. So if you had some advice to give someone new starting out, because the majority of people watch this show is fairly new, they may have did a
yeah,
deal or two, they might haven't
right,
even done a deal yet. What are
right.
some immediate things they can do right now? The advice you about to give them, where they can go out tomorrow and start getting some type of results.
Um, that's I think for the most part, there's so much resources out there, right? You got your podcast, Nothing But Nuggets. We got our podcast, as well. And then you go to YouTube and it's just a world of information. I think you need to narrow it down and figure out, like, for example, find out what your budget is, right? If you can have a budget, if you can't have it, you definitely need to, figure out a way. There's a lot of ways you can get free leads, free resources. You can make relationships with realtors. Start building. Actually, let's back up a little bit. I will build relationships with realtors. Build relationships with title companies. Title companies will give you lists. They will give you lists. There's marketing people that work for title companies that will give you the list for free. The
Right.
second thing, yeah, the second thing too, the third thing, sorry, I would reach out to other wholesalers who are either more experienced, and it's something that I didn't do when I first got started. Is build your network, man. Because honestly, your network is very important, whether you're starting out or whether you're in a position like Antoine or myself. Because at the end of the day, you're going to start to find out that you're not going to be able to do this all by yourself. At some point, every level requires a new relationship. Even if you're
Right.
in the beginning, even if you're in the beginning, even though I would do that, and then the thing that I would do is get that list from the title company for free, and then you can also go down to like the county. You can get lists for free if you don't have no budget. We're talking, right, zero money, and then start texting. I would use text message right away, just because it's texting for me generates a lot of activity, a lot more than cold calling, a lot more than mailing, a lot more than any other source of marketing. And then from there, then from there, you can call those leads that you generate the activity from. I would start texting, honestly. And if you're brave enough, door knocking, you know,
Yeah.
grab a list and go door knocking. So,
Yeah. I think that's some awesome advice because I think you know a lot of people they just get stuck on Facebook. They get stuck on Facebook, Instagram, and they don't go out and take action. Right.
yeah.
I think mindset, like how important is mindset and what you accomplished so far has played within your career. Like, can we speak on that?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great point, man. I think so I was talking to somebody about this the other day because they asked me, like, what was the difficult thing when you're starting out? So it's having to reprogram yourself, right? I think that's a very good point, because when I first started out, I had a I had a vision, and I had an understanding of what I wanted my business to look like. The problem, it wasn't coming to fruition in the physical form.
Right.
You realize it, and this is where most people give up, right? Like they see you, they see me, they see other guys in the business, but they don't realize what is going on in the background, right? They look at
Right.
us, they look at other businesses. That's one of the things that you have to be careful of, is that you don't compare yourself. So what you need to do is, while you're starting out, for you to reprogram your mindset, is this is what I did when I first started out. For about 6 months, man, I turned off and I'm not saying that you got to do this, but you got to figure out at some point, is I turned off the music, I turned off the TV, and I got into the books, man. I got into the books. I got into learning what wholesaling really is, how to run a business, how to structure my day. You definitely have to reprogram your mind, as far as mind, because you can do all the work you want, but if your mindset is not there, you're going to give up. Let's just put it that way. You need to reprogram your mind. Definitely. That's 100% true.
Yeah, I agree because like I see people they just buy course after course, they buy webinar after webinar, they buy book after book. And I'm like, listen, there's not enough webinars and courses and books that's going to substitute the fact that you have to do something. You have to do the
Yeah.
work. You have to
Yep.
roll your sleeves up and get dirty and be uncomfortable and be vulnerable for the next 12 months until you see some type of results.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I think the best teacher, the best teacher is experience, right? You got to go out there and fail. You got to go out there and fall on your face, and then get back up, and you learn from that. But I do recommend, man, is reaching out, man. Reach out to those that are willing to help you, because it's gonna springboard your career. And don't be afraid, man. Most people, honestly, in this business, I'm not speaking for everybody, but there's a lot of people who are more willing to help you than not.
Especially out of Phoenix, man. You guys make that example. Like it's okay to reach across the aisle and help one
Correct.
another.
Correct.
There's enough money that
Yeah.
everyone can eat.
Yep.
And some
Yep.
people, like I give you an example, like some people, they'll turn around and if you might cold call a seller live and they'll turn around and see the number you use and call that same seller and try to get the deal instead of going to go do the work to get their own deal.
No, that's true. That's true. And to add to that, I think also too a big point, because some people that are listening are probably in a competitive market. Don't look at the competitors. What I would do is look at it this way. So if Antoine's calling a lead today, and that lead's going to be on my list the next day, it's all about timing. Antoine probably is not going to get a hold of that lead today, but let's say that I call the next day, maybe I'm the one that's going to be getting a hold of them. And so it doesn't matter what other people are doing. You just got to keep going. So, yeah.
Yeah, I always say like most of the deals I've done so far, it wasn't because I was a genius. It wasn't
Right.
because I had the best quality data. It wasn't because I was the best cold caller or closer. It was the simple fact that I was at the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? And I think
I
that's what
love
it
that.
boils down to. It's just about
Yeah.
being at the right
Timing,
place
man.
at the right time. And the only way to be at the right place at the right time is be consistent. To
Yeah,
have your
exactly.
marketing going around the clock all the
Exactly.
time and being consistent. And
Exactly.
as a leader, it's up to you to keep that consistency. So many people say, "Hey, I called this list twice. It's garbage. I'm a scrap it and call another list." I'm like, "Hey, you got to constantly have these touches on these lists, right? You
Exactly.
know, you
Yeah.
can't just call a list twice and throw it in the trash. You leaving money, you wasting money down the drain."
Oh yeah, we honestly, that's crazy, because a lot of people do that. They call one list and like, oh, this list is trash. Our lists have probably 12 to 15 touches, bro.
Same here, brother. Same here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's a few questions coming. I want to kind of
yeah,
get the
yeah.
questions
Okay,
going. Uh, Someone asked, "What's the good delivery rate on texting?"
sure. So for us, if we can stay 20% and above, I'm pretty happy with that. That's kind of our threshold. We want to be a lot higher than that, but our threshold is 20%. If it starts dropping below that, then we have to adjust. And the way you adjust for that is that you need to, again, like I said earlier, change phone numbers, watch your text templates. There's some lists that gives us 30%, even 40%, but 20. Typically, we run about average 20 to 25%, and that's a really good delivery rate for texting. I don't know if Antoine, in your market, if that's different or not.
I think our delivery rate higher than that. I got to check because he's saying
Okay.
delivery rate. He's not talking about response rate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, delivery rate. I'm sorry. I totally bombed that. And I think we're like at 89 or 90% of
Yeah,
delivery
there
rate.
you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
mine
yeah,
about 90.
yeah, yeah.
Let me see. So what is good leads to sent message ratio? I'm not sure what that means. But
And what is a good leads to sent message ratio? I'm wondering if he's asking. Can you ask that question again, Ahmed? I wonder if he's asking how many messages. Yeah, ask that question again. That'd be awesome.
yeah. So I always tell people this. This is my theory, right? Um, 2020 is the year pivot, right? At first, 2019, it was words where everybody kept saying scale, 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 scale.
Yeah,
Like that was you say that word, you was on fire. Like that was a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
trending word. Now
Right.
I'm noticing like the word pivot has become a normal word in
A normal
everyone's
word.
vocabulary. So
Yeah.
what do you see yourself next year with this whole wholesaling thing? Like, are you going to double down on continue doing what you're doing? Are you ready to kind of be more of a takedown operation and put it back on MLS, or are you just playing it by ear with whatever the market gives
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good question. My goal right now is so because we have two businesses, right? We have a couple business, but so my goal right now on the wholesale side is to get Ruben, who's our who's been with us for a long time, get him to move into my position. And so, I don't want to get out of the business completely, because honestly, we're not a big volume business, because we're more of how much money can we keep on each deal, and our profitability is about 42 to 45%, which is really good, right? Unheard
you?
of.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's really good. So I mean, our goal is to get to a point where he moves in, and that company's still pumping. But we definitely, wholesaling will never go away from it. That's the number one rule. Wholesaling will never go away from it, just because it generates that consistent cash flow for us, for the company. But we do definitely want to move into, and my focus is leaving him there. My focus is now, raising more capital, building those stronger relationships, what we've been doing, that private money and things like that. So, and scaling our business on that part. Because, I see a lot of people who leave wholesaling, and sometimes they end up coming back. I see flippers, they go into flipping 100%, or, they go into other things, and basically, they end up coming back to wholesaling. So we don't intend to ever leave wholesaling. That's kind of our bread and butter, right? For the most part, we're a wholesaling company, but I want to get to a point where we're building some really strong relationships, so we're able to take, if there's a property that we want to decide to take down, like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, where we're getting the money from. Like the money's there. That's kind of where
Right.
I want to get to. Yeah, yep. Yep, that's kind of where I want to head to.
That's dope. That's the same template I'm having. Like for me, your
Okay.
using wholesaling as a platform to take that cash to dump into other buckets,
Hmm.
to eventually create a good stream, and that stream eventually turns into a waterfall, and then
Right.
I can live off that. So,
Correct.
someone
Correct.
asked, John B. asked, what should I know before I start trying stuff?
What should I know before I start trying stuff? Hey John, can you elaborate a little bit? Like what stuff are you trying now? Are you speaking about like SMS, cold calling, skip tracing? Because
Right,
there's a
right.
variety of things. I mean, this can go a lot of ways. So if you can elaborate a little bit on what exactly you're trying out. Is it a coaching program? Then that's a different conversation. Uh, you know, so if you can elaborate a little bit on what exactly stuff that you're trying.
Yeah, so I got questions coming in on Facebook that I can't see on stream, y'all. So,
Oh, okay,
LaShawn,
okay.
my lovely wife, LaShawn,
Yeah.
asks, what made you want to get into real estate in the first place? Can I answer that question?
Right. No, 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 not yet, not yet. No, that's a good question. You know what? It's crazy how real estate got deposited in me like in 2006, man. I was this was when it was really big, right? When the market was on fire and before it crashed. I was actually working in sales. I was doing credit repair, so I would work with loan officers, and I would help them with their clients, and I worked with the guy who had this thing figured out where he can clear your credit in 30 days. But and so I was getting him clients and stuff. But in that office, there was another group of people who were doing real estate. They were doing flips, and I got really interested because these guys were doing like luxury flips, and I was like, damn, that's
Wow.
sweet, man. I want to get into that. Like, like how do I get into that? Like these guys were all talking about how they bought it, for X amount of X amount, how much money they're gonna put, and I was like, that was like, ding, ding, man, that sounds really great. And then you know what happened 2 years later, right? The market just crashed, right, completely.
Right.
And so that was our that I love the way that business model, right? Real estate, but I didn't know anything about it. I was like, all I know is you need to have money. That's you need to buy real estate, right? I didn't know about wholesaling. I didn't know about that you could start wholesaling. And then fast forward, like that went to the back burner, right? Worked every job possible, and then in 2013, closer to 2014, we saw the market start to go back up, right? And so what I did, the best thing I did was keep a close contact with one of the individuals that was in that office doing the flips, the real estate. So I reached out to him in 2014, and his name was Randy. I said, "Hey, Randy, the market's coming back up. Like, how do how do we get back into? I said, do you want to get back into real estate?" He was a little older, and he's like, you know what? He goes, "I haven't done it in a while. I want to start doing some research," and I
Right.
did. And I started going on Craigslist. And back then Craigslist was booming, right? Wholesalers had their deals on Craigslist back in 2014. And I was like, I didn't know who I was calling, man. I would have called and they're like, yeah, you want that deal? You got to close in 7 days. You got to put down 3,500. I'm like, what? I don't have that kind of money, man.
Oh
So
man.
I know I didn't know who it was. And you know what's funny is some of those ones that I was calling is they work with they're Jamil's partners. Yeah, Hunter and so they were posting a lot, man, on Craigslist. And then that's how I got into it, doing more research. And then I chose the real estate as the vehicle I wanted to go. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I ended up. And then I found out about wholesaling a year later from Sean Terry. That's who I because he's here local in my market. So
Yeah, shout out to Sean Terry, man. See, you set that up and get this guy on my show. I watched
yeah, I will.
all Sean Terry videos from start to finish, and that's how I learned how to become a
Did you?
versatile
Okay.
wholesaler.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like his
You,
whole
you,
you can go on YouTube and piece it together, man. You got an
you
entire
can.
like mastermind.
Sean Terry's legit, man. You know
Yeah,
what's crazy? Um, so when I was doing all that research, I ended up I was like, man, I'm not getting anywhere. Like I don't have the money and blah blah blah. And then my mother-in-law was like, she goes, why don't you reach out to the realtor that helped me buy my house? Because they did. She's like she worked with investors, and I'm like, okay, what's her number? So I call her up, and she no longer lives there. She's in Florida. She's like, I'm sorry. She goes, I'm no longer involved. And I'm like, shoot, this thing's going nowhere. You know what? Before the call ended, I kid you not, she said, but hold on. She goes, before I let you go, why don't you go and look up a guy named Sean Terry? And I was like, damn, who's that now? Now I got to go look up someone else, right? And here's what we're talking about, right? Not giving up, right? Not
right.
not not giving up and doing it. So I'm like, she's like, look him up. He's a local guy there with where you're at. And you know what, man? I didn't do it that night, and I'm lucky that I didn't like say, you know what, I'm not gonna look this guy up. I did it. I looked him up the next day, and I went on his website, and it just blew me away. That where my eyes were open to wholesaling. Right? I downloaded his ebook. I read it 3 times because I wanted to make sure what he was saying there was
Right,
right. I'm like,
right,
did I just read what he just wrote? I'm like, what the heck? And I call my friend, right? I'm like, hey, Randy, you know what? I found this dude. He said X, Y, and Z. He said you could do this, and he's like, man, he goes, is he legit? That thing that don't sound right, because he didn't know what wholesaling was.
right.
So that's how I found out about wholesaling, man. It was crazy, and then
That's
from
crazy.
there, I just ran with it, bro.
Yeah, someone asked, what's your dreams outside of real estate?
uh, Giving back, man. I'm a big giver at heart. And what I mean by that is like, just giving back without limitation. I think for the most part, because I'm the first person that, if I can think of out of my family member that's moving into a position that, business minded, out of, that uncertainty, never knowing about money. That's kind of how I grew up, right? Or, never talked about money and things like that. So my thing is to the next generation that's coming is not only to give money. I'm talking about legacy. I'm talking about, making sure
Right,
that, that never gets repeated again, what happened in the past. You know what I'm saying? So,
right, right.
yeah.
And Angel asks, how to convert or more leads with your list during this time? Like,
How to what again? Convert more leads?
convert, yeah, on your list.
Follow up, man. I said you got to keep following up, bro. You need to, like we said earlier, you can't just call them one time. You got to the follow up. You definitely have to follow up with people. And we'll talk a little bit. I don't know if we're gonna get into it about some strategy you can use as far as what is it called, the sales techniques that you can use.
Yeah, come on. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah. All right, cool. So I'll give you guys a little bit. I'll give you some tips. When you're calling lists, the first thing you want to make sure that you're doing, and this is texting as well too. So on our text file, we never reach out to any leads, and we go against the grain just because we're trained by Sandler, right? We go against the grain. Most people who are calling leads are always calling to make an offer, right? Hey, Antoine, I was calling about your property on 123 Main Street. I want to see if you would consider making I want to see if you would consider an offer on that property, which is nothing wrong with that, right? That's you want to see if you can get them engaged. The problem is that you're never going to be able to come back from that. If you want to
Right.
get new information, you're never going to be able to come back for that, because the seller automatically, if they're willing to talk to you, what's going to happen is they're going to say, well, what's your offer? That's their next question. Or I'm not interested in selling, or how did you get in my information? But
Right.
if they say, what's your offer? The problem is now you're scrambling. You're going to either do two things. You're going to say, I don't know, or let me do my research and I call you back. That's the worst thing that you can do. Or tell me about the property, right? In some cases, you might get lucky and you might hit a seller who's, like you're saying, timing, right? That seller's ready to go 100%. You're the person they're going to talk to and they're ready to sell. But you and I know, Antoine, that's not the case with every lead, right? You got to work it. You got to work that lead, baby.
Right. Right. Right.
So what happens is that if you start, we don't ever start a conversation with that. We kind of, what we do is we use a reverse, right? Like I'll call you. Like the first thing I'll do is, if you answer the phone, if I know I have your information in front of you, I have your name, I have your address. There's no reason for me to be saying, may I speak with? I'm trying to reach.
Right.
You should not have that in your script. It's more like, hello, Antoine. It's more of familiarity, right? You're coming from a standpoint where you know where I know you, and you're gonna be like, well, who the heck is this? How do you know my name, right? Like that's the mindset that you want them getting. Yeah, this is Antoine, because when somebody calls you and they say, hello, Antoine, your reaction is gonna be like either
Yeah. How you know me?
yeah, like, how what's up, like, oh, Antoine, it's Max. I never say, hey, this is Max, I was just reaching out to you. I always say, hey, Antoine, it's Max. I'm calling you because I've been trying to reach the owner of 123 Main Street. And then I stop right there. I want to make sure that you're the owner of that property, right? So and then what we do is but we do it in a confused tonality, right? So, hey, Antoine, I don't know if you can help me, but I've been trying to reach the owner of 123 Main Street. Your reaction is going to be like trying to rescue me, right? Because I sound confused. Like, what the heck does this guy want? Like, he
Right.
sounds like he's been looking for me.
Right.
Right?
Right.
He sounds like he's been looking for me, and the reaction you want to get is like, I'm the owner. What's going on? Now we come in with our pitch, right? That's how we open up any cold call, and our pitch is really simple. Hey, Antoine, I appreciate that. Let me know that you're the owner. You know what? We're getting ready to buy a property in that neighborhood where you own that property that's there. You're probably not considering selling that anytime soon. So we go negative, right? And like, well, I might be. What do you offer? Because they're gonna tell us that, right? What do you offer? Or So what we do is we again we reverse it, and then we say, you know what, Antoine, I don't know what I can offer you yet. What I want to do first is kind of figure out if you are interested in selling, and figure out how we can work together on buying your property. Now that's a different conversation. Now I want to know about you. Like, why would you even want to consider selling a house to a discount buyer like myself?
Right. Right. It's like what you said earlier when a guy was pushing Steve away from coming into the meet.
Exactly. See,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. And most people are afraid to do that because of the mindset, right? The mindset is like, I got to get a deal. I got to get a deal. And it's understandable, right? We all want to get the deal. But if you get better at communication, if you get better at those kind of things, like, or sometimes, you know what, you'll have people that'll say like, well, you're probably one of those investors that are lowball. I mean, what would you say to that, Antoine? If somebody told you that.
You say that was probably one of the best low ball?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
They
I'm not.
say,
I'm not a low ball investor. I'm an investor that likes to make fair cash offers. Do you
yeah, and
got
that
20-30 minutes so we can go over your property?
Yeah,
And,
and that's a good response. I like that response. It's very soft, right? Hey,
mhm.
I want you to know that I'm not coming in that through that. I just reverse it. So if you were to tell me that, like, well, you know what, I don't want to sell to you because you're one of those low ball investors. So my reaction is like, Antoine, you know what? I respect that. I know you're probably getting a lot of low ball offers, but when you say low ball, what does that mean to you?
Right.
Now you got to defend that position. See, you have to defend what you just said. I don't need to defend that because I want to know exactly what it is that you mean by low ball offer.
Right.
You know, so we kind of we reverse it on them and let them defend. Every time that we talk to a prospect, they have to defend their position on everything they say. For the most part, we're always going back at them through the reversing, what we call reversing.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I do that and then realize that's what I was doing because I do that when they throw out a number and I'll be like, well, how did you come up with that number? Or how did you
Yeah.
arrive at that particular number? And
Right.
we making them defend that asking price.
No, that's good. That's good. You know, and even with repairs, like you know, one of the things that I always tell people is that, hey, we don't. What's crazy, man, about us is that we don't ever go into we don't ever come at a seller like, well, the roof is going to cost me 10,000. Well, you know, the windows are going to cost me another, you know, $3,000. Well, the kitchen cabinets, this, we never break those things down for a seller. What we do is we, you know, we walk the property and, you know, we look at it, and then what we do is we tell the seller, like, Antoine, you know, after walking the property, man, it's probably needs a little bit more work than I was expected. You know, if you were to fix this property up, Antoine, what do you think this would take to fix this up?
Right, right.
Now they have to, you know what I mean? Because if you come at them like giving them all these numbers, they're gonna be like, "You crazy? My cousin can do it for 5,000."
Right, right.
You know, every seller's gonna say that. Every seller's gonna say somebody can do it cheaper than all the quotes you just gave them. So what we do is we say, "Look, Antoine, you know, after walking the property, I realized that this might need a little more work than I thought. You know what, Antoine? Let's pretend that you were gonna fix this property up. What do you think it would take?" Whatever number they say, if it's a lot lower than what you were thinking, agree. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just little tricks, right? Little ninja tricks that you can use. Another one too, and then we'll kind of go back to questions if you have any more. Is if you are going to appointments, you know, physical appointments, what's the first thing that happens, Antoine, when you go to the appointment and they open up the door? What do the seller want to do? Because I don't think you go to a lot of appointments, but
Oh,
you know,
I ain't been to a
what's
appointment in a while. You know.
yeah. So what
But the
happens is that
but the last
what?
couple of go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead. The last couple what?
I said the last couple of appointments I had been on. Sometimes the seller they real nonchalant. Like you make you
Yeah,
feel awkward.
yeah. So that happens a lot, right? It's awkward. But one of the main things that happens that we see when we go to appointments, all right, where do you want to start? Do you want to go look at the room? Do you want to go look at the restrooms, the
Yeah,
kitchen? Where, you know, just go ahead and walk through the property, and then you tell me what you guys are going to pay for. And most people do that, right? They walk through the property, and then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, the seller's waiting, like, okay, how much can you offer for my property now that you looked at it? That's tough, right? You put your that's pressure selling. You gotta you're under pressure. You're not gonna be able, unless again there's a seller that's ready to go. They're in need of selling the property. That's a little different. But as you and I know, not all sellers are like that. So what
right.
we do is, and what we do, and I'll share this golden nugget. When we go to the appointment, is when they open the door, and then they say, okay, come in, take a look at the property, start here, where do you want to start? And they start walking away. I stand back a little bit. This is awkward as hell, but you got to do it. I stand back, and then they look back, and they're looking at me. They look back like, what the heck's going on? And they're like, do you want to look at the house? I'm like, actually, Antoine, you know what? Before I look at the property, and I walk the property, because I don't know if I'm gonna buy it. I'll be honest with you. Can I just tell you a little bit how we work, and then figure out if it even makes sense for us to look at the property after that? And they're like, what the? You should see their
Uh huh.
faces, just like their faces change, and it's called pattern interrupt. Let's just put it that way, right? You pattern interrupt the seller by saying, hey, Antoine, you know, before we go look at the property and all this, can we just hold on for a little bit, and you know, because I don't even know if I'm gonna buy this property. I just want to know first to see if we're even a good fit. And they're like, yeah, sure. Dude, we sit down through the whole appointment, and at the end of the appointment, they're like, well, do you want to look at the property? When the appointment's almost over. So those are just some golden nuggets. I know it's a lot coming at you, but yeah, those are some things that
And this some of the
ninja
stuff
things.
that's derived from the Sandler training.
Yeah, correct. Yep,
Awesome, man.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, and if
I
they
like
go,
the approach. It's different.
yeah, it is different, and you know, and if you go to the website, I don't know if you're ever going to put the website down, but we have we do have we have a coaching program as well, that where we train, you know, students across the country as well in this. But definitely, man, those are tips that have worked for us. You know, it helps to ease the sell, because if you're under pressure, I'll be honest with you, the appointment is not going to be comfortable. You can do those things on the phone too, right? The same thing, like I said, we've closed appointments on the phone with these same techniques, right? Most people want to start talking about the property, and you got to kind of reel them in. And one of my favorite strategies is what I call the negative reverse selling. And I'll kind of, you know, is there any questions that we want to answer, Antoine? Or are we good?
We good. I think it's
Okay.
probably a few, but we good.
Okay, cool. There's my favorite technique that I love. It's called negative reverse selling. So the way you look at this is that nothing but nuggets, yes sir. Is you draw what's called a pendulum, right? So you have 3 o'clock and then you have 9 o'clock. 3 o'clock is your positive prospect, 9 o'clock is your negative prospect, and then 6 o'clock is neutral. Those are the guys that ain't giving you nothing on the phone. They're like,
Right.
okay, what's next? And then you
Uh-huh.
have 3 o'clock, which is your positive. Those guys are like, give me 100,000, and I'm ready to go. And you know that your MAO is 150, and you're like, right, you're ready to jump on that, right? Those are your, and then your 9 o'clock is like, you know what? Yeah, I want, I want to, I'm gonna want, X amount, and they're pretty negative. I know investors lowball, right? That's your negative
Right.
prospect, right? That's the one that's 9 o'clock. So what we do is on negative reverse selling is you got to start to strip line them. So if he's too positive and you jump on that, like try to lock that deal up, more times than not, what's going to happen is they're going to have seller's remorse. Even if you come to an agreement, they're like, damn, I sold that property too low to Antoine. When he called me back, I'm going to tell him that, I think I'm going to wait till I get more offers. So what we do when you're too positive, like let's say you want 100,000, I start to tell him like, 100,000, man, I don't know if I can pay that, honestly, man. I haven't done my homework, but inside, man, I want to jump. Like I want to lock this deal up, right? But what we
Right.
want to do is we want to get them away from that way too positive stage where they're more in the towards the middle, right, between neutral and positive, because that way we don't want them to have sellers remorse. So we want to start pulling them back. Like, Antoine, you know what? 100,000, man, it sounds like it would be a great deal. I just don't know if I can pay that. Let's pretend someone. Not saying that I can, but let's pretend someone wants to offer you the 100,000. What happens next, Antoine? Well, I would sign. I mean, I would sell it to you. Oh, okay. So typically in the past, when other homeowners told me the same thing, selling it to me means that everything we talk about putting in writing. Is that what you're telling me? Yeah, you idiot. I want to sell you my property.
Right.
So
Right.
you start pulling them back. So that way, when you do get down to closing them, they feel like they made the decision at the end
So
of the
so so
day.
basically, it's similar to what we do. You warming them up for are you near computer, and you want, I call it warming them up for DocuSign. Just
Yep,
putting
yep,
DocuSign
yep,
in the
yep.
microwave.
Exactly, exactly,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
I like it. I like it. I think
Yep.
people want to talk about, some people like, yeah, talk more about closing on the phone. So a lot of
Sure,
people,
sure.
they like working on the phones.
Yeah, yeah,
The reason why I like working on the phones is because I can be in multiple places within an
yeah,
hour.
yeah,
So if I got an appointment in Tampa, I'm in Tampa. If I got an appointment in Charlotte, I'm in Charlotte. Right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
pretty dope.
yeah. So, you want to talk a little bit about that closing on the phone,
Yeah,
or
yeah, that's
okay?
fine.
So a few key points for us to work to closing on the phone is that you want to make sure that you establish your rules. And what that means is that you got to make sure that you're not talking to somebody that wants to rush you through the call. I mean, you could probably attest to this, right?
Yeah,
You want to have an active or an engaged prospect, right? You want to have somebody that's answering your questions. You want to have somebody that's got time. I don't know if it's an incoming lead, it's a little different because now they called you. But if
right.
it's someone that you're doing an outbound call, what you want to do is you want to establish the rules of what you want the call to, what you want on the outcome of the call. So basically what that means is that when you're talking to them is if you want to lock up the deal on the phone, or if you want to, excuse me, if you want to get pictures, if you want to set up another call for a longer conversation because the spouse is not there, or or they need to talk to somebody. So you need to establish those rules from the get-go. So what I mean by that is you need to say, like, you know what, Antoine, I appreciate you taking my call today. Typically, this call is going to last about 15 to 20 minutes. Is that still good for you?
Right.
Okay, perfect. Now, on the call, Antoine, today, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Some may be personal. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. Now, at the end of the call, Antoine, if it makes sense for us to work together, typically what happens is that, and it's okay. We don't buy every house, right? If doesn't make sense for you, let me know. I'll do the same thing. But at the end, for us, if it makes sense to work together, everything we talked about, if it comes to that, is to put everything in writing. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. And if even if we don't put in writing, sometimes I know calls get translated. We'll need some pictures, or maybe, if there's somebody else that has input in buying the house, would it be okay if we set up a schedule? Would it be okay if we set up a call later on for those things?
Sure, just give me an advance notice, and I'm cool with that.
Awesome, awesome. So now we just established the rules, right? I got you now. So now what we do is we go now into the paint funnel. Hey, Antoine, just how come you're considering selling the property? Tell me more about that. So now I'm going to get you to answer my questions. And then once I know, I figure I got enough motivation, I'm going to move into like time frame, money, and things like that. If there's somebody else who has input, and then if the call goes to where it's going to be closed, I jump into what you just said earlier. Hey, earlier when we were talking, Antoine, do you remember when we said if it made sense for us to work together? Do you feel like I can help you with your situation?
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Would you
Yes. Yes.
would you like my help, Antoine?
I sure will.
Okay, great. So now we're gonna set them up to get online and sign that DocuSign. You see that? How we pivoted and we went through.
Yeah.
But you need to establish the rules. Go ahead.
It's almost like little compartments. So you take them out this bucket, then you throw them in this bucket. Then you throw them in this bucket. Then they don't be able to go to the next bucket until they finish this bucket.
Correct. Yeah. You don't want to move them too fast because we always have a saying, right? And this is where a lot of people get in trouble, and especially on the phones, is that don't make a move without a commitment. We don't be making moves, man. Like we don't go freaking comp properties. We don't give them free information. We don't, oh, what's your company name? We don't do any work without getting a commitment from the seller. Now, the commitment doesn't necessarily have to mean that they're going to sell. The commitment means, are you even willing to have a decent conversation with me? That's the commitment I want from you. Yeah. So we don't make. Yeah. Remember that. Don't make a move without a commitment. Yep.
Right. And the same thing with like permission, right? Before we able to move to the next thing, we always ask for permission. So that's really important.
You know what's cool about establishing the rules, and this is where a lot of wholesalers struggle, is when you go to ask questions about mortgage, questions about how much they owe, questions about, certain personal things. I've had this happen to me, even though I did establish the rules. We're like, hey, Max, these questions are a little too personal, right? Like, and so I said, oh, I'm sorry, Antoine. I'm confused. Earlier when we started the call, remember I said that, this on this call I was going to ask you some questions. Some were going to be personal, and I asked you if it was okay, and you told me it was okay. What changed? Now you got to defend that. See?
Right.
Yeah. Now you got to defend that.
Yeah, that's dope, man.
Yeah,
that's
yes, sir.
Dope. So there's a few more questions, then we get you out of here. We about to hit the hour mark.
Awesome, man.
Someone asked,
fun, bro. Ever think about jumping into mobile homes? Oh man, all day we do mobile homes. We love mobile homes. You can make some nice rips on mobile homes.
Right.
Yep.
So you guys do mobile homes even though they have a DMV title?
So we only do mobile home with land. So it's got to have the land.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. And some of those mobile homes with land, those do have the title as well too. But if it has the lot, we're gonna work them. Yep.
Okay.
What negotiations book do you? Damn, they want all the secret sauce, bro.
Man, this is called nothing but nuggets.
I know. I'm just kidding. So 2 books I recommend that are my favorite. You want to get one that's called Asking Questions the Sandler Way. That's going to show you how to strategically ask questions. So Asking Questions the Sandler Way. And then the second book is called You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. Those 2 books are my favorite books because everything I just before. Yeah. Those are my 2 favorite books because everything I just said on the earlier on the podcast comes from those books. Not everything, right? Like the basics, the fundamentals. So if you get those 2 books, but a big one that's been a classic is Never Split the Difference with Chris Voss. Chris Voss is he's a beast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's another question for you.
How do you assist someone who wants to sell but say they don't want to due to what's going on right now, and how often should you follow up with them without pushing them away? So the last part of that question is, if they say if they don't tell you stop harassing me, and you follow up once a week, twice a week, and you can do it very strategic, like, hey Nate, just following up with you today and making some calls with some people that I've talked to in the past. So I wanted to follow up with you, to see how things are going. But if they're saying, I mean, I think Antoine can kind of, agree with this. If they're not saying stop harassing me, just call them, man. Keep following up
Yeah.
with them.
Keep following up.
Yeah, keep following up, man. There's strategic ways to do it. But on your first part of your question, how do you say someone else? I would say you got to make them look at the big picture, right? At this point right now, I think we're a little bit over the scare for the most part, but we had to pivot and adjust. You got to provide certainty. So when the homeowner says, "Well, I don't know if I can sell because of everything that's going on," you always got to agree with them. Like, I understand. There's a lot going on right now, but what I can tell you is anything that we agree upon, any offer that we offer you, it's an offer that you can depend on. Which means that the offer that we make you today, no matter what happens 30 days from now, that offer is good for that. So you got to provide some certainty, to that homeowner and make them feel like you're actually going to come through on what you say. And there's different ways that you can do it. Yep.
Right, I like that wordplay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I say you the man.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I appreciate it, Alberto. I would really like to buy a mobile home park. Is that too big of a goal? Hey, there's no goal too big. It just depends on where you're at in your career. If you're in a position to do it, why not, man? I don't know,
I
Antoine.
agree.
What do you think?
I say, man, put yourself in a position and surround yourself around people that is questioning the mobile home game, and become a value to them, right? So you
Yep.
might do things like just if you live in a place that got a lot of mobile home parks, you might just drive for dollars to see parks that's kind of distressed. Write them
Yeah.
down and look them up, via PropStream, what in county records, and then make that conversation. Hey, I work with a group of investors that's interested in buying mobile home parks. Are you
Yeah.
interested in liquidating this particular park or any other parks you may own?
Yep.
And because when you're dealing with an investor, there's a different conversation than dealing with a seller. They
Yeah.
already know
Yeah.
what time of day it is.
Yep.
So you can come at it straight like that. Are you interested in liquidating? And you can say them type of words, and those are
Yeah.
the type of words they want to
Yep.
hear. Oh, he or she knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
they might not want to sell that park in particular, but they might have another park that's probably doing terrible down the road, and they might say, "Yeah, I'm interested. Give me an offer." And
Yeah.
that's a good conversation to go have. And this is a tip, this is a nugget for most people out here. If you're brand new and you don't feel like you have no value, if you bring a hot lead like that to a mobile home park person or expert or a person that does that, they're going to take you more serious. They're going to take you to lunch and buy you Caesar salad with the extra chicken on the side, right? Because
Yeah.
you're bringing value to them. But if you're that type of person, help me, help me, help me, because I feel like I deserve to be helped because I'm new. You're not going to get too many places in this business.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's very true. Yeah, because talking to a homeowner, your typical homeowners, and talking to an investor is a different conversation for sure. I agree. Yes, sir.
Nate said here, appreciate that. Great advice.
Perfect, man. Awesome, Nate.
Is there anything you want to leave anybody with? Any words of wisdom? Anything you're working on? Anything you want to leave the people?
Yeah, man. One of the biggest things that I always say is that if you're just starting out, whether you're just starting out, whether you're at a certain level, whether you're at a level like Antoine, myself, or other people, the biggest thing is that you're always going to have challenges, man. Don't look at anybody that's in a certain position as they have made it. Every level has a new devil, and every level requires you to upgrade. Whether you're just starting out, your mindset needs to be shift, and you need to work on that consistently. One of the things that we have a saying in our business in our business is that when we hire new people, hey, we work more on ourselves than we do in our business. Because honestly, man, for you to grow, for you to get certain levels, and to overcome those levels, you got to shift your mindset, man. Every level requires a new shift. Every level requires something new from you, and the only way you can do that is renew your mindset. And then the second thing I want to leave with the newbies and those that are just starting out or have done a couple of deals here and there, is stop comparing your path. Stop comparing your journey to someone who's already at a place where you want to be at. You could admire, but don't compare, because you don't know, like I said in the beginning, you don't know how they got there, what kind of work they've done, what kind of sacrifice is that. You just got to admire, figure out how you yourself can get there, and don't compare yourself to other people, man.
I agree, man. I appreciate it. how
Yeah.
can people reach out to you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, man. The best way I always tell people, you know me, I know you're very active on Facebook, and I'm not, man. I got to get more active. But Instagram, I'm super active on Instagram. You can follow me, Max Jimenez REI, Max Jimenez REI on Instagram. Send me a message. I'll definitely answer your message. And that's the best way people can reach out to me, man. Yep.
Man, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. When this whole virus stuff goes away, hopefully I'll be out famous to kick it with you guys.
Awesome,
Thank
man.
you
I
so much.
appreciate it, Anton. Thank you for having me, man. I had a lot of fun, brother. I appreciate it. All right.
And I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for
Yep.
watching the show. If you're interested in anything I'm offering, such as VAs and all of that, reach out to me and DM me. If you're struggling with something, reach out to me. Starting this Monday, I'm going to be opening up my one of my phones. This actually cell phone here, where you can call or text me, and the first people that call my phone, I answer. I give them a free 15-minute call, to talk to me about anything they're struggling with. So we're gonna start doing that on Mondays. And we don't. It's not a specific time. It's a random ass time where I drop a post on my Instagram, and you who are the first people to call me, cool. Then after that, I cut the phone off, and then during certain days of the week, I turn the phone on to reply to text messages. Any text messages people want to text me. So yeah, appreciate everybody. I see you on next Wednesday on the next episode. We got a nice guest lined up. I'll make that announcement a little later on today. So catch you guys later. Thank you guys so much for supporting the Nothing But Nugget show. Also, before I go, Monday, the Nothing But Nugget show will be streaming on all podcast platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere. So we're going to be launching on all platform podcasts. So appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.